It looks like we are live. Let's confirm. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah,
I'm pumped to be here. Yeah, how are you?
looks like we are live. Amazing. Let's confirm. Oh, Mike, how you doing? Sorry, we've got a 20-second delay and an echo of what we're saying. So I've got that turned off now. So the other me has left the chat. Sorry, you want to just start by introducing yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I'm Mike Burnstein. I am co-founder and president of Janji, and I'm here at our studio in Somerville, Mass. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. For those who don't know, I have been working with Aire Libre for a little while. I host the podcast, the Beyond Running podcast. And we're going to be showing a short film, and then we're going to talk about the film. We're going to talk about all things water, water conservation, and how that relates to, the environment. Intersectional environmentalism, I think, is, this is a good example of something that's sort of at the center of a lot of things. Without further ado, I think we can show the film. Do you want to intro it, or do you think we should dive right in and then talk about it after?
Yeah, let's dive in.
Cool. Let's do it. All right, I'm going to share my screen here. And I'm going to pop out and pop back in so I can share my screen. One sec. Oh, sorry, Mike. All sorts of technical conundrums on this one. So I just tried to share my screen, and now that you're the host, it's saying you've disabled screen sharing.
All right, you should be good now.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Boom.
Natl nochipa technamiktia tochan, technamiktia kanin tiualeua, technamiktia timasewalti. Totlacayo moneki atzintli, atl kichikaualtia, kipowa iwan colinia ijkon totlacayo tlahtowa, mochikaualtia iwan tlakatia.
La idea de hoy es seguir todo el río Magdalena, desde donde surge, corriendo hasta donde termina. Este valle aquí es donde cae todo el agua de estos cerros que rodean, entonces acaba siendo como una esponja donde se concentra.
All right, I'm gonna actually unmute myself this time. How's that?
Perfect.
All right. Do you want to talk a little bit about just the inspiration behind the film, and the collaborative effort between Janji and Aire?
Yeah, absolutely. So at Janji, part of our core mission and our promise is to support clean water efforts around the world. And part of that is kind of how we give back, but part of it is also on the awareness side. And I think within clean water, it's something that a lot of people have and take for granted, in that it's just sort of a quick turn of the tap on the sink away. And the Follow the H20 campaign that the film sort of sits under is it's a way for us to help more people connect to the source of their water and better understand kind of where their water's come from, and using running, which is kind of a tool that we have as runners that Janji's really believes in, and Aire Libre really believes in, and use that as a means to kind of get out there and physically connect to the source of your water. And we connected with Mao and Daniel and the team from Aire Libre, and chatted about this idea. And they had actually independently already kind of been thinking about this concept around the last free river in Mexico. And I think Mexico City is just such a mammoth metro area. I think up there with the biggest in the world. And water, kind of access to water is always something that is a concern for a place where you have that many people living
Right.
in such a density, and they were able to kind of come up with this concept where they could actually track a route to the source of water for a portion of Mexico City in the last kind of free-flowing river to bring water in. And yeah, they did just an amazing job of creating that film and telling that story. And yeah, it's really fun to see it again, because we first released it, I think, at this point, maybe a year ago. And every time I see it, definitely gives me chills.
That's awesome. It's a great story. And I love that you're sort of using story to help people think and be potentially more responsible because of that. Like, for me, this makes me think of like going to a reservoir where tap water actually comes from. Like, there's one in Portland, Oregon, where I've lived, and there are like bike races around this reservoir, and a fair amount of the city's drinking water comes from this reservoir. And when you actually see it sitting there as this finite, resource that's in a pool, you definitely think more when you turn on the tap, and it's sort of a similar effect here, like, but done in such a beautiful way. Maybe we can take it back to like the relationship that Janji has with water. And the brand is really it's a focal point for the brand, which I think is so cool, to be able to use business and commerce to support things that are really important to you, and causes that matter. And so I'm curious, like, where that came from. Was it, early on in the brand? Was it before the brand? Was it the inspiration, or did it, it was, you were a running brand and needed to have something more to offer with it? How did that come about?
Yeah, it was really the impetus for the brand. Janji's now, actually, we're coming up on our 10th birthday, which is pretty wild to think about. And when we first started, my co-founder and Dave Spandorfer and we were college teammates, runners in St. Louis, and the initial kind of concept for the idea happened on a bus ride coming home from this nationals outdoor track meet that we both were running. It was our first time both qualifying for this race, and we were really excited. And it was in Ohio, and we went out there, and it ended up being one of the hottest days on record for the state of Ohio during that time of the year. And just a brutal race, 25 laps around the track for 10K. And it's pretty, they usually don't do this in something like a 10K, but it was so hot that they were actually like hosing people off as we went by, and there were little water cups available, which is usually something, that you'll see tomorrow when you run the Boston Marathon, but not something you'd usually see in like a college 10K.
Right.
And, we got through the race, and it was just really inspiring and challenging. And on the way home, I think we were just kind of feeling that runner's high and talking about how we could continue to be connected to this sport that we love so much in our careers. And that was kind of the earliest iteration of this idea for Janji, what would become Janji. But at the very start, we knew we wanted to use the sport that we cared about to make a difference and give back. And clean water was at the very foundation of that. We hadn't totally honed in on the business model or the concept, but we knew clean water was just fundamental to what we do as runners, and also what we do as human beings, and just being able to exist and thrive and grow. And so, yeah, that was there from the start. And then over time, we've evolved in terms of how we're doing it and the types of organizations that we're supporting, and the way that we're able to have an impact on that side.
What are some of those ways that you've been able to merge sort of the business with some of your water conservation efforts and things like that? Have there been challenges along the way? And sort of what have you learned in trying to make a difference with a business?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. We started Janji right out of school and really didn't know the first thing about running a business or you know, starting a company or anything along these lines. So we made tons of mistakes and tried a bunch of things that didn't end up working out. And I think the earliest form of our kind of give back business model was that we were donating $4 for every piece that we sold to support clean water efforts,
Right.
which was ambitious and in the end not totally sustainable when it came to growing and running a business that was going to be around for a long time. And so the way we do it currently is a little bit different, but something I think that has more ability to scale and more longevity behind it, and the ability to have like a much bigger impact over a longer period of time. So what we do now is we donate 2% of all of our sales directly to support clean water efforts. And so the cool thing about that is it's something that more and more people are kind of starting to understand, with Patagonia's 1% for the planet and a lot of companies joining initiatives like that. It's something that people are familiar with, and it's like, oh, Patagonia's 1% for the planet, Janji 2% support clean water. It kind of clicks, and I think resonates with people in that it's double maybe what traditional give back companies are doing. And by doing it as a percentage of our sales, it's pretty transparent. And the more that we grow, the more impact that we can have. And some companies are a little bit less kind of transparent on that front, maybe doing it as a portion of profit or a different kind of metric that might sound as impactful, but is actually pretty cloudy and hard to really tell what's happening. Whereas on the percentage of sales front, that basically just means any kind of money that we receive, whether it's from stores that are ordering from Janji, like REI, or people ordering directly from our website, 2% of that money is all going towards this cause. So we try to really keep it above board and transparent.
That's awesome. I can see how $4 per piece sounds great, but the fact of the matter is you'll end up making more difference over time if you do something sustainable that allows the business to grow, so that that percentage can scale up with the business as the business scales. And I hope that people don't trivialize the extra percentage, because it is double. Like, these margins are slim, and 2% is a substantial commitment. So I think that's awesome, and commend you all for making that real commitment. That's awesome. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's kind of our main way of supporting these clean water efforts around the world. But then a sort of separate revenue stream that we've created is our Janji Collective program. So Janji has a membership program called Janji Collective, and I think you could think about it on similar lines of maybe like REI Co-op or even like Amazon Prime. And for us, it's $25 to join, and in joining you get a small discount on Janji gear. You get first access to new product launches. You get access to our running travel trips that we do sometimes in collaboration with Aire Libre. You get exclusive kind of products that aren't available to everybody else. You're a part of this kind of community of runners that are kind of believing in the same mission that we believe in. And that full $25 fee that people pay to sign up, 100% of that also gets donated to support clean water efforts, and in this case, supporting the construction of clean water infrastructure for in the American Southwest within Navajo Nation, of just building pipelines that connect homes and give people running water at home, which is something really, really critical that we believe in. And the membership program is just another cool way where we're able to kind of add to that impact and also allow people to sort of themselves invest and buy in and make that $25 investment that hopefully kind of gets them bought into that cause and something that they can continue with in their life outside of Janji.
Yeah, I would imagine that those commitments that you make, when you actually put pen to paper, it tends to snowball, right? Like you decide to do that, but then next time you see an opportunity, you're like, oh yeah, I am that kind of person who contributes to these efforts, right? One thing that I think like has been really nice in any like advocacy work that I've done, or like it sort of leads to more effort when I can see the effects of, prior efforts. And you mentioned, clean water access projects in the Navajo Nation. Have you been able to, witness some of the effects and the change that's coming from these efforts that y'all are putting in place?
We have, yeah, and it's definitely, it's inspiring and eye-opening, and also it's also a long process where I think we live in a time of immediate gratification, and with something like water infrastructure or ecosystem cleanup, things take a long time. And so, to give you a sense of the timeline, it's like right now we just launched our Java collection. So each collection from Janji is inspired by a different place around the world. We work with artists from that part of the world to design unique prints that kind of make up that collection and make it unique from everything else that we do. And then to keep things kind of tied to that part of the world, we also try to earmark our contributions. So the 2% of sales from that season support local organizations addressing water issues in that part of the world. So in Java, Indonesia, for this Spring 22 collection, our funds are supporting an organization called Greeneration. And in Java, there's a river called the Chitaran River that is often described as the dirtiest river in the world, or the most polluted river in the world. And it's really, really tragic because there's this beautiful place, but then this river has become basically like just an outlet for tons of forms of waste, human waste, industrial waste, and some of it actually kind of coming from the overall apparel industry, which is a big polluter in that part of the world. So we don't actually make our product in that area, but I think just by being an apparel brand, we also recognize that we are part of this really dirty industry. And so what Greeneration is doing is they're using these advanced techniques to pull and extract waste out of the river and sort it and recycle it, and overall just clean up this really dirty waterway. And then they also have a two-pronged approach of kind of working with local communities to change behavior and make sure that trash isn't, or human waste isn't finding its way into the river to begin with. And so back to the timeline. So this season is the Spring 22 line. Once we're finished selling that season is when we make our contribution to that organization. And then for them, it's going to be probably a 2 or 3 year program of kind of pulling waste out of the waterway and cleaning it up. And so we're looking at kind of more of like a 3 to 5 year plan of making an impact in that community. And so it's definitely, it's really long term, but at the same time, we have had the opportunity to stay connected with these organizations and get impact updates from them. And so, for example, we just heard from Dig Deep, which is the organization in Navajo Nation, on some of the updates that they've had in terms of homes they've been able to install clean water infrastructure to, and lives they've been able to kind of transform from that project that tied back to some of our funding from our last season. So we do kind of stay abreast, and we try to visit each of these organizations, but at the same time, it's just a much longer time frame, because as an apparel brand, we've kind of already moved on to a future season where we're then, a lot of our apparel and what we're talking about on our website is tied to then the next collection.
Right. I mean, it's amazing. It sounds like the work is like so important, but I can imagine it being so gratifying that like you're able to witness these things change. The timelines are long, but the effects are beautiful. I'm curious, like, I think that when it comes to environmental work more broadly, there's this balance between wanting to help and focusing your energy there, and sort of protecting yourself from something that can be quite discouraging. You're definitely, to use a water metaphor, swimming upstream, and sometimes people can get so discouraged that apathy is sort of the answer. And it seems like you've done a great job of, taking your concerns and your beliefs and manifesting them into action. And I'm curious, like, do you have any advice for people who sometimes fall into the trap of like, how things are really bad environmentally and have that sense of apathy? This is a bit of a heavy question, so I'm sorry to hit you with a real one. Yeah,
absolutely. I think just we all have a tendency to scale up in the way that we're thinking of just like, I'm one person and, maybe there's this problem I'm facing in my local community, and that feeds into this greater problem that we're facing in this region or this country, and then the world at large. And suddenly you're looking at something that's just daunting and impossible to address. And I think I would encourage people to really like scale back down and think smaller, because let's say in your community, there's a local reservoir that you like to run around, and you've noticed that it's getting kind of dirty and there's starting to be trash that's found in the reservoir or what have you. Doing something small, like gathering some friends and spending an afternoon cleaning it up a little bit, like that's small, but it actually can be part of a much bigger change, kind of when you think about more and more people taking that kind of action. And suddenly, it takes it from here all the way up to here just by taking a small bite. So I think for us, starting a business, it does seem impossible, but you kind of sometimes have to have that approach that runners have of like, I know I need to run, I need to train for 10 straight years if I ever want to, get where I want to go in the sport, but really just breaking it down into like day by day. All right, I look at my plan today, I have to run 3 miles. Okay, I can do that. Yeah.
That's a great metaphor. And I think that, when people do say, oh, I'm just one person, I'm not going to reverse climate change, or I'm not causing climate change on my own, like corporations are, there's some truth to that, right? However, if everyone took that mindset that, not being solely responsible for this thing absolves you of responsibility to do what you can, then we'd be, we'd be hosed and more quickly than otherwise. So, I think that, doing what you can and breaking it up into smaller pieces is one thing. Supporting businesses that are aligned with your values is another thing. Do you have any other ways that people can, either take action as an individual or potentially like support some of these specific efforts that Janji is kind of taking on and aligning with?
Yeah, I think, on the political side, like researching candidates that are really doing the right thing and are backing it up is huge. On the consumption side, being conscious of where you're putting your money. Money speaks, and buying products or supporting companies that are kind of doing the right thing and buying things that you're going to keep and love and aren't going to end up in landfills for a long time is huge.
Yeah.
But like I said, there's so much out there and there's so many causes. Sometimes it is a lot to take in, and kind of just having that approach of like honing in on what you think is most important and trying to have an impact in that place, whether it's donating your money, your time, etc. I think don't worry. You don't always have to feel, overwhelmed by everything everywhere all over the world, but trying to do things the right way with how you live and consume, and then picking a small area that you're passionate about to contribute to is probably a healthy approach that can make a difference and also lead to, a life where you're not weighed down with anxiety all the time.
Yeah. So sort of in a similar vein, you've managed to not only, turn business into something that aligns with your values. It's like you've taken another passion, running, and made that work with both. And I think that's so cool and commendable. And there are probably a lot of people out there who are like, man, I wish all of my stuff aligned so well. I'm curious, like, how you look at running now, and what your relationship is to running, and also, if you have any advice for people who are looking to use running as sort of advocacy, or, not that you have to, because running can be your relief from your work or the causes you work for or whatever. And I think for a lot of people it is, but it can be nice to make these things aligned. So that might be two questions in one, maybe three. Sorry.
Yeah, please let me know what I'm not touching on here. But
oh, you're doing great. Yeah, you're getting everything.
Yeah, for me personally, I think running was a very competitive, focal point of my life for a long time. College and for years after, I loved like training at a high level and racing. But I think that, at this point for me, I'm kind of 8+ years removed from that, and running has taken a new shape of just more of a kind of mental health outlet, something that I do to disconnect and get away from screens and connect with myself. It's also my favorite way to kind of see new places. And, whenever I travel or I'm in a new city, it's kind of my go-to is to like throw on shoes and just like explore. I love, that running is this tool that can allow us to see the world at like this certain pace that's like not quite, you can see more than if you were kind of walking a city, but you're a little bit more connected to it than if you were on a bike or driving around in a car, of course. I just absolutely love that. And it's also a huge social outlet where, I have friends that I only see kind of through running, and it's rare in life, I think, to have that like hour of uninterrupted time with somebody with no distractions, no screens. And it's just like an amazing human connection. So I feel super fortunate that this thing that's been in my life for so long is also now tied in to my career, and I'm able to really stay connected to it. It's definitely a blessing. I think for other people that are looking to kind of build a career connected to a pursuit they're passionate about, like running or biking or anything else, I think I feel really lucky that I'm able to do this. And I think if you can kind of put the pieces together and think of an idea that ties all those threads together, that's amazing. I don't think it's necessarily. I think there's advantages to keeping something sacred like running, and then having your career maybe be in a different space, and kind of allow yourself to keep it as your escape. So I think it can work either way, but an advantage, I think, of keeping everything together, and for me, and having running be tied to my career, is the people I'm able to connect with through work are oftentimes amazing people like yourself, Alex, like like Mao and the Aire Libre team. It is really special, and running does tend to pull kind of authentic, kind-hearted people kind of together with this common passion. But that said, it's also totally fine to find some career in something that's totally different, where you're able to challenge yourself and make a living, and then keep running as something you keep to yourself. That's just, just brings you joy.
Yeah, I love that. I think that, at the heart of what you're saying, it's sort of like there are just many ways to work, about the work toward or work for the causes that you are passionate about, the things that matter to you, whether that's clean water, whether that's, social justice, whatever it is. There are many ways to do it. And these problems can seem really daunting when you're an individual, but if you can break it up into, daily actions or weekly actions, just small tasks that you can, use as small contributions in the right direction, that's great. And maybe a bonus if you can bring a couple friends along for the ride. It's cool being here in Boston and seeing the energy of this running community. I mean, yesterday, even just walking from the hotel to the expo, then, over to Tracksmith, it was like 40 people I haven't seen in 2 years. And it's pretty special to, share all the energy. It's pretty tough to tell 40 different people what you've been up to for the past 2 years, but at the same time, that's what we signed up for. I'm so inspired by the story and really appreciative of the time. Where are you going to be on the course tomorrow? I'll say hi.
Yeah, I think I'll be at like mile 23. So I'll definitely be cheering for you. Yeah, you'll need it at that point.
I was going to say, hopefully I'm not in the pits at that point. I'll try to give you a big smile. Well, yeah, thank you again for the time. The film, it is awesome to see again the story behind the brand. I mean, I feel like I just need to go find what those small actions are going to be, and see what I can do and let them add up. So thanks for the inspiration.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Alex. Really appreciate you doing this. Shout out to the Aire Libre studio team for an amazing film and everything they put together to make that happen. Good luck tomorrow in the race.
Thank you. Yeah, and hopefully at some point we can get out there with Mao and Dan and the crew and spend some time on some trails somewhere.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. All right. See you later. Happy Easter.
Happy
marathon weekend.